내무실에는 총만 봐도 막 괜히 그때 사고 생각이 더 나고 그 다음부터는 자해 생각도 많이 들고 그래서 사단 의무대에 갔을 때도 자해도 하다가 병원에도 입원하고
어떻게?
팔목에 그냥 칼로 많이 좀 그었습니다.
어떤 생각으로 그렇게 하셨어요?
하고 나서는 저는 어떻게 왜 했는지도 기억도 안 나고 하고 나서 피가 흐르는 걸 볼 수 있었고
그 순간에는
기억이 없었습니다. 필름이 끊긴 것처럼 아무 생각도 없었고
오늘 새벽 2시 반쯤 경기도 연천 중부전선 최전방 경기소대에서 22살
A tragic incident took place in June of 2005. One soldier took out a gun and shot his fellow soldiers, killing 8 men. Shin Tae-jun, who was present at the time, just barely survived.
내무실에 총 난사하는 장면이나 수류탄 터진 거나 주위에 동료들 죽어 있는 거나 기타 등등 그때 일어났던 일을 다 기억하고 있습니다. 이게 아침약 이게 떨릴 때문에
The shock still torments Shin Tae-jun even today. Only medication can give him any sense of stability.
지금 칼을 거기 깊숙이 넣어두신 거예요? 네.
Shin Tae-jun becomes upset at the mere sight of harmful objects.
빨간 게 없었어요. 도저히 막 이런 거 상상을 못했어요. 이 빨간 거 보면은 자기가 이렇게 피투성이 보는 것 같아가지고 이 빨간 것 자체를 다 치운 상태였었거든요. 방에다가
Any trace of the color red, which reminds him of blood, has been removed from the house.
이 액자를요?
네, 빨개가지고 김치냉장고 같은 경우도 지금
This kind of deep shade of red is especially troubling.
(2시 35분에) 깹니다.
항상
몇 번씩 안 깨지만 거의 깹니다.
거의 매일.
예.
그 시간이 아마도
사고 난 시간입니다.
사고 난 시간.
The time of the accident is precisely ingrained in Shin Tae-jun's mind.
지렁이는 뱀처럼 위협적이고 그러지는 않은데.
그러니까
밟을 수도
사람들이
있잖아요.
더 이해를 못하는 거예요. 지렁이가 무는 것도 아니고 쫓아오는 것도 아닌데 그냥 생긴 게 너무 싫어요. 지렁이뿐만 아니라 그냥 막 민달팽이나 그런 기어다니는 종류 다 싫어요. 무서워.
멀리서.
몰려서 보기 싫어. 그냥 저게 뱀이다 이렇게 아는 것 자체가 싫어요. 잠깐만, 있는 거 아니에요 지금?
Lee So-hyun reacts much more sensitively than others. What memories could cause such extreme fear?
그냥 어렸을 때 오빠가 2살 위 오빠가 있는데 그냥 이렇게 장난으로 백과사전에 뱀 있는 면을 펼쳐서 막 쫓아오면 막 도망가고 울고 막 그랬거든요.
Bob has expressed a desire for his leg to be cut off. He believes that his left leg is not his own.
There's nothing wrong with me. Now it's just that I want to be an amputee. I can't explain it. It's not part of me.
You feel that, or?
I feel that, yes.
But when you pinch your leg, that still you feel.
I still feel it, yes. It is physically a part of me, but it is not up here a part of me. You understand? Okay.
The cause of Bob's condition, body integrity identity disorder, also lies in his childhood memories.
There was a young boy there who had his left, or I think it was his right leg that was amputated. And he was hopping about as if nothing was amiss, you know. And after that, I began entertaining that. I thought to myself, you know, well, that's the way I want to be too.
The eerie feeling that someone is watching us. Even the slightest notion can impress a strong memory in our minds.
이렇게 공부를 하는데, 도서관에서 공부를 하는데 책을 보는데 누군가 저를 쳐다보는 그런 느낌을 자꾸 받는 거예요, 제가. 그래서 에이 설마 하다가 탁 쳐다봤는데 쳐다보는 눈초리가 너무 무서운 눈초리가 저를 쳐다보고 있는 거예요. 그래서 그때 저도 모르게 이상하게 마음속에서 엄청난 그런 공포심이랄까? 그런 게 유발이 되었어요. 저도 왜 그런지 모르겠는데 그 이후로는 그 공포심에서 떠나질 못하고 사람들의 눈초리를 피하고 시선을 피하고 그런 생활을 살았던 거죠. 근데 희한한 게 이건 아니다 하고 알면서도 벗어날 수가 없는 거예요.
Memories are an important part of the mind, and these memories are learned. Little Albert was very fond of rats. However, when he was with a white rat, he was alarmed by a loud noise. He associated the loud noise with the white rat. After a series of repetition, Albert grew to dislike the rat. He furthermore began to dislike anything white. He even disliked the nurse with her white uniform. This is called conditioned fear. This fear is learned.
사람도 타고난 공포, 그러니까 본능적으로 공포를 느끼는 대상은 사실 그렇게 많지 않거든요. 뭐 큰 소리라든지 높은 장소라든지 덩치가 큰, 굉장히 큰 위협적인 동물 뭐 이런 정도인데 나머지 다른 대상에 대한 공포들, 예를 들면 어떤 사건, 그다음에 가슴 아픈 기억들, 그런 거에 대한 공포는 학습을 통해서 후천적으로 배우게 되는 거죠.
When we study, we store information from books in our brains to be used when necessary. In other words, the information in books enters our brains through our eyes and is recorded in the synapses of our nerve cells. It is the same with paintings. When we look at a painting, the image is stored in a certain part of a synapse. Our minds may stray while we are studying and even go blank. However, we return to our senses and continue to study.
Memories are stored by virtue of synaptic connections between neurons. So each neuron is a separate island in the brain, and only by interconnections between the neurons, communication between the neurons, do these two islands communicate. And when we form a memory, what we're doing is establishing connections between different neurons so that the neurons now communicate more freely than they did before.
This is the soccer player Park Ju-young at his best. daily stored information is recalled when necessary. In Pak's case, during every practice and every game, memories are stored in his synapses. These memories show their true value during decisive moments in the game. However, not all of these memories can be recalled. Kim Young-sun severely damaged his brain in a car accident.
한 30대 중반이나 초반에 보이는데 찾아보겠습니다. 이 근처에 좀 다들 좀 있으면서 제가 좀 빨리 뛰어다녀 볼게요. 이 근처에 계세요?
Kim Young-sun disappeared from the place of the interview, while her husband searched for her frantically. We were able to find her first.
지금 막 남편분께서 찾으러 다니시거든요.
어디 갔어? 화장실에 가라니까 그렇게 금방. 여기가 보통 사람들 팽팽하잖아요, 속이.
들어갔네요.
속이 아니 들어가고 울퉁불퉁하잖아요, 이렇게 만져보세요. 그죠? 이게 지금 그런데 그 뇌압 때문에 이 뇌세포가 많이 죽었대요. 그때 당시 그 CT 같은 거 찍어놓은 거 보면은 의사들의 설명에 의하면은 그래요. 뭐 까맣게 나오는 부분이 뇌세포가 많이 죽는다고 그러더라고요. 근데 그래서 그런지 이 뇌세포가 이렇게 많이 이게 죽었대요. 이것도 잘 모르고. 과거에 둘이의 그 여러 가지 뭐 추억이라든지 많을 거 아니에요. 그런 것도 얘기해 보면은 거의 99% 몰라요, 지금. 모르고.
아까 병원에서 저 본 거 기억나세요?
안 나는데?
병원에 저하고 이야기했잖아요.
잘 모르겠어요.
제가 뭐라고 많이 물어봤었는데 기억 안 나세요?
네.
아까 어디 갔었어요, 김 선생님? 김명선 씨 아까
Even
어디
after
가셨어요?
repeatedly being asked similar questions, she continues to forget.
병원 간 거 기억나요?
제가 이야기를 하면 기억나요?
안 나요?
남편분 성함이 어떻게 되세요?
그 잘 모르겠어요.
김자, 영자, 식자 기억 안 나세요? 김영식?
김영식?
예.
기억나요?
누구예요, 김영식 씨가?
제 남편이요.
기억나세요?
In Kim Young-sun's case, her damaged brain cells prevent her memories from being recalled, which renders her unable to remember.
그것도 모르겠는데요.
병원 간 거 기억 안 나세요?
병원 간 거 기억나요.
Our brains are especially programmed to remember things that affect our survival. Any sense of danger activates the amygdala. The heart begins to beat more rapidly. The adrenal gland, located above the kidney, receives a signal from the thalamus, causing the secretion of a hormone called adrenaline. This causes the heart rate to increase. Blood pumped more rapidly to each muscle results in a newfound strength. We call this the fight or flight response. This new, unpredictable strength created in dangerous situations is part of our survival instinct. Let's go back to the beginning. The reaction of the amygdala to a sense of danger prompts the secretion of the stress hormone adrenaline by the adrenal gland, and the heart begins to beat faster. The muscles prepare to either fight or run away. The moment the amygdala senses danger and prepares to run, the frontal lobe assesses the situation. The amygdala, which senses danger, and the frontal lobe, which assesses the actual situation, both play a decisive role in our survival instinct. We often find that events in our lives which made us feel sad, happy, or angry are more distinctly remembered. This is because these memories are related to our amygdala. Among emotional events, we remember clearly those events related to fear or uneasiness. This is because the amygdala issues a strong command to remember these events in order to avoid their reoccurrence.
So how is it that this happens, that we remember those things that are more significant better than those things that are less significant? Well, that's where the amygdala comes in. The amygdala, when it gets activated, tells the hippocampus and the rest of the brain, remember this, this is important. Whereas if the amygdala isn't activated, and then the brain thinks, well, this is not that important, then it's less likely to store it.
Mice must be afraid of cats in order to survive. These memories are stored in their amygdala. In front of the cat, the mouse trembles and even urinates from fear. Its fur stands on end with tension. This is all the result of a fear of death. This mouse's amygdala is damaged. Two weeks later, the mouse with the damaged amygdala is placed before the cat. An amazing thing happens. The mouse shows no fear of the cat. The cat was placed at a closer distance. The cat becomes uncomfortable and moves away. It is a fascinating thing to behold and demonstrates the importance of the amygdala to our survival, for such lack of fear eventually leads to death.
편도체가 없다면은 그 위험한 자극을 인식하지도 못하고 또 위험한 자극과 연관되는 다른 자극들을 학습하는 능력도 없어지니까 아마 생존하는데 그리고 자신의 안전을 지키는데 큰 위험이 가해지겠죠.
Let's return to the woman who ran away from the offender. Ordinarily, she would not return to this alleyway. She would avoid it because her amygdala would have experienced fear at this location. Survivors of great calamities have often narrowly escaped death. Their amygdalae contain a stronger record of the terror of the location than anyone else. However, an extreme activation of the amygdala can be an impediment to a normal life. Shin Young-soon, a survivor of the tragic Daegu subway accident, showed exaggeratedly sensitive reactions to fire after her experience. She was recently treated at a psychiatric clinic.
그런 생각은 전혀 안 나세요? 사고 났던 그런 생각은?
언니 그거 내가 왜 해줍니까?
네?
내가 사고 나고 불 끄세요 하고 다니 안 합니다.
저희들 어디서 온지 아시죠?
저 뒤에 목사.
예?
목사 그분들하고
아니 저희 방송국에서 왔어요. 병원에서 온 거 아니고요.
방송국에서.
이제 그때 사고 나신 이후에 어떻게 지내시나 해서 한번 만나 뵙고 싶어서 온 거예요. 요새 지하철은 못 타시죠?
지하철 안 탑니다.
지하철 근처단가.
At this point, the amygdala refuses to acknowledge the frontal lobe's signal that the dangerous situation is over. The amygdala continues to feel threatened.
지하철 근처단가.
지하로도 안 내려가시고요.
지하철 근처.
겁나서 못 타시는 건가요?
한 내려오는데 또 타겠습니까?
그날 일은 기억나세요?
알지. 다 압니다.
In Shin Young-soon's mind, the subway incident is still an ongoing reality.
숨진 장병들은 소대장 26살 김종명 중위와 22살 전영철, 조정웅, 박이원, 이태련.
It is the same for survivors of the GP shooting incident. The incident may be over, but in their minds, the trauma is ever present.
병원에서 치료받고 있습니다.
The shock is just as considerable for the bereaved families. Among the survivors, those suffering from trauma have been unable to return to a normal soldier's lifestyle. Their families are calling for early discharge.
그 참상 같은 걸 겪고 난 다음에 분명히 갖게 될 소위 외상 후 스트레스 증후군이라고 영어로 PTSD.
We invited the surviving soldiers and their families to discuss the severity of their trauma-induced stress handicap.
윗사람이나 아랫사람이나 일반 국민이나 보고 경각심을 가지고 오냐면
We also discussed possible treatments.
지금 단계라도 치료를 받는 게 여러분들 앞날에 괴롭힐지는 아무도 몰라요. 전문가는 대강만 인식할 수 있고 그런 빵 소리가 나면 가장 먼저 예상되는 게 옛날.
It was much more serious than expected, for the agony lay in their minds rather than in their bodies.
예측하지 못한 지금 같은
우리 아이를 봤을 때는 정말 옛날에 우리 아이가 아니거든요. 항상 불안정하고.
노골적으로 그랬대요. 다 두 사람들 갈겨버리고 나도 죽는다. 그러니까 같이 있으면서 니들 그럼 우리도 죽일 거냐 이렇게 니들은 빼고 딱 죽여버린다고 이런 심각한 상황까지도 가 있거든요 지금.
그런데 입원할 때 이렇게 폐쇄병동 아니라리가 그렇게 했는데 정신신경이다 보니까 폐쇄된 병동에 치료를 하는데 뭐 별 도움이 안 된다는.
At the time of the incident, Shin Tae-jun was treated at the military psychiatric ward before his early discharge. However, his state shows little improvement.
총소리나 수류탄 터지는 소리 들리고 음악을 켰는데도 들리고 막 시계 초침거하는 소리부터 시작해서 이상한 소리들이 그냥 괜히 들려오고 방에서 그냥 계속 뒤치락 거리다가 간신히 잠들면 또 금방 시간 있다 깨우고.
During our research, we discovered that this kind of post-traumatic stress disorder can continue for many years. This is the sorrowful account of Hwang Geum-ja, a former Japanese comfort woman.
네, 도와주세요. 도와주세요. 고마워요. 내가 어떻게 할 수가 없어요. 그놈 둘만 안 그러면 백같이 나가면 붙잡는데요. 붙잡아서 죽여버려, 끌고 가서 죽여버려요. 이렇게 말을 하는 내가 어떡하겠어요. 내가 너무너무 기가 막혀요.
Hwang Geum-ja always locks her windows.
살짝 여세요. 해봐요. 살기가 저렇게 붙었으니 저렇게 저녁마다 저녁마다 와요. 내가 저녁마다 뭐하러 어린 새끼를 내가 그러겠어요. 저녁마다 오니까 저년 죽여버려야겠다. 저 나쁜 년 죽여버려야겠다. 이런 소리가 그냥 귀가 장장해서 죽겠어요. 자들한테 맞아 죽어요. 여기서. 응? 그렇게 노무현이 대통령 불러서 응? 이거 처신 좀 해달라고 그래야겠어요. 잘 들어. 임 선생 잘 드시오. 응? 나는 처치해야겠어요. 어제 학교 앞에서 어제 아들이 갔다가 할머니를 위하면 성폭행하려고 그 두 놈이나 뭐 몇 놈이 달라붙는지 몰라. 여기 수가 없어요. 몇 놈이 달라붙어요.
We went to the school to verify the story.
근데 저희 방송 전화하셔가지고요. 여기 학생이 성폭행하러 계속 쫓아다닌다고 막 와서 어떻게 해결해달라 그래가지고.
아, 그거는
사실 아니죠?
아닙니다. 여기 복지관이 있는데
네.
그 7복지관인가요?
네.
그 복지관에 그분 담당
저 만났어요.
예, 상담원이 계십니다. 이제 그분 말씀 들어보니까 다른 거는 아무 문제가 없으신데 그리고 성폭행 문제는 정신적으로 큰 타격을 입으신 것 같습니다.
옛날 그것 때문에?
그럼요. 옛날 일이 자꾸 되살아나는 것 같다고.
학생들 보면은 제복 때문에 그런가요? 왜? 요즘 제복도 아니잖아요.
우리들이 이제 개인적으로 뭐 뒤에서 한 얘기가 그 정도 나이의 그 젊은이들에게 그 성폭행을 당한 것이 입력되지 않았을까 이런 생각을 합니다.
아, 일제시대 때?
예, 그때.
Her amygdala constantly associates the high school uniform with Japanese soldiers of a similar age. It sends a signal of warning to her mind, even after all this time.
근데 할머니 돈이 많진 않지만 조금씩 그렇게 모으셔가지고 어디다 쓰실 거예요?
어디다 쓰냐고요?
예.
나 죽을 때 초상을 남보다 그 특이하게 해달라고. 나 원이 되니까 난 미수예요. 결혼 안 했어요. 안 미수예요.
예. 그래서 돌아가실 때 장식을 크게 하시려고요?
그래서 나 그게 소원이에요. 나 죽을 때 아주 호화 찬란하게 해달라고. 돈 조금 모은 거 있어요. 그래서는 시방 여기다 한다고.
이영돈입니다.
요즘 어떠세요?
뭐 프로그램 하느라고 바쁘고 뭐 그렇죠 뭐.
How are memories stored in our brains?
고생해주겠습니다. 예, 잘 뵙겠습니다.
Memories are stored well when information repeatedly enters from the outside. The synapses related to the information form a network as it is saved. For example, the name of Lee Young-don is repeated and remembered along with this documentary investigating the mind which he produced, and KBS, where he works. Also included is the in-depth 60 Minutes show he used to be involved in. These things are recalled in the network. Of course, it works vice versa, for the idea of in-depth 60 Minutes in turn recalls the name of Lee Young-don. Related memories are closely tied together in this way. Furthermore, if they are not frequently recalled, they begin to decline. Granted, this does not mean they disappear. This is the mechanism of memory. However, the amygdala, which has related terror and fear, transcends time and continues to activate the memory mechanism. In 1999 in Boston, Catherine was on her way home from work when a bicycle hit her. Through this traumatic event, she was forced to recall another incident which had occurred 5 years before and suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder for a considerable amount of time. One evening, 5 years earlier, she was suddenly kidnapped by two men as she stood waiting at a traffic light.
I thought I was going to die then. So I thought I was going to die when I get hit by the bike and by a car. I thought I was going to die. So yeah, when you have traumatic events, I think you're triggered to remember another traumatic event if you've ever had one. I think the mind...
Which is totally different.
Totally different, yeah. I think the mind works in mysterious ways.
We had World War II veterans. When they came back from World War II, they had PTSD symptoms. They had nightmares. They got very upset when they remembered their combat. But gradually, they got over it. And for 50 years, they had no PTSD symptoms.
Right.
Okay? Now they come into the hospital with back pain, and they have an evaluation and we find out that they have cancer of the prostate, a very stressful thing, right? Okay, so that night they go home and they start having nightmares about World War II. You see
after 50 years.
After 50 years, that's right. You see, the stress of the diagnosis of cancer has activated their memory of their previous traumatic event that they previously hadn't been bothered by. So that shows you how an acute stressor can reactivate an older stressor that can be as long as 50 years ago.
Traumatic events can recall other traumatic events in the past. Our brains are particularly sensitive to fear and terror. No matter how quickly they pass, impressionable moments are always stored in our brains. This is because it is considered necessary for our survival. This is the role of the amygdala.
Leave the arrow sitting right on it.
This tip of the hippocampus.
Yeah, the hippocampus is here, and then the amygdala is here.
This kind of fear learning occurs due to postnatal stimuli. However, Professor Pittman believes that people with smaller hippocampi have a greater risk of developing post-traumatic stress disorder.
That a smaller hippocampus makes people vulnerable. We know that from our twin research. So probably people with smaller hippocampi have a greater risk of developing PTSD. And an event which is only moderately traumatic event may cause PTSD in that person, but may not cause PTSD in a person who is less vulnerable because they have a larger hippocampus.
Even the smallest shock can cause PTSD.
제가 특정인 차의 색깔에 놀래요. 그 차가 검정색이었는데 검정색 차를 보면 무섭고요. 그러다가 점점 좁혀져갖고 검정색 코란도나 모서를 보면은 놀래요. 놀래서 거기서부터 또 다시 몸에 경련이 일어나기 시작하고요. 밖에를 못 나가고 차가 무서워서 차 있는 곳은 안 나가고.
In Ho Jo-hee's case, because of the belief that her very survival was threatened, the amygdala triggers an extreme sensitive reaction, sending a warning signal in any situation similar to that of the accident. Could the treatment of such neural disorders also be found in the brain? Professor Shapiro made the groundbreaking discovery that a certain reaction of the brain can relieve stress.
And I noticed that when that kind of thought came up, my eyes spontaneously started moving very rapidly in a certain way. And I noticed the thought shift from consciousness, and then when I brought it back again, it didn't bother me as much. So I wanted to see if it would work deliberately. So I deliberately brought up something that bothered me and deliberately moved my eyes in that way and found that the same thing happened.
Moving the eyes in a certain way caused the pain to disappear. Today, this eye movement method is used to treat PTSD in most major U.S. institutions.
그 장면을 생각하시면서 한번 해보시죠, 뭐 직접. 예, 그 장면 떠올리시면서요. 예, 이거 눈을 한번 따라가 보세요.
The expert's instructions are to recall a bothersome scene and move the eyes back and forth.
네, 좋습니다.
This kind of repeated eye movement causes the distress to disappear.
네, 좋습니다. 그런 식으로. 네, 잘하시네요.
Depending on the movement of the eye, the stimuli also shift from the right hand to the left hand.
예. 이러면서 이제 그 그 생각을 계속 하면은 그 괴로웠던 게 이제 자꾸 바뀌어요. 다른 장면으로. 그러니까 교통사고 났던 그 상황을 생각하면서 눈 운동을 하다 보면은 이게 연상이 교통사고 났던 데서 또 다른 거로다가 이렇게 생각이 자꾸 떠오르고 그래요. 주마등 이렇게 지나가듯이. 그러면서 이제 이거 한 1시간 내지 1시간 반 정도 이제 그런 작업을 하는데 그러다 보면은 처음에는 교통사고 났던 거 생각만 해도 깜짝깜짝 놀래고 그러던 사람이 나중에는 그런 거 생각해도 아무렇지도 않게 이렇게 되는 거죠.
What could be the principle behind the seemingly simple eye movement?
Mechanism as for why the eye movement works is currently unknown because there's not enough known in the whole field of neurobiology. Neurobiology is in infancy.
The exact principle may be unknown, but experts estimate that it is similar to the concept of rapid eye movement during sleep. It is widely known that during REM, our memories are organized. In other words, unnecessary memories are disposed of during sleep's REM cycle. It is estimated that Dr. Shapiro's eye movement method follows a similar principle. Ho Jo-hee, who suffers from PTSD due to a car accident, is currently undergoing EMDR therapy. Most likely, her unnecessary memories are being disposed of, just like with REM.
차 소리를 듣는다든지 지나가는 차를 본다든지 그것만 봐도 마치 사고가 일어난 것처럼 그렇게 극도로 긴장된 상태가 되는 거거든요. 근데 결국은 그런 기억을 처리해 버리니까 더 이상 그렇게 이제 뇌는 긴장할 필요가 없는 거죠. 그래서 생존 초긴장 상태 경보 모드에서 일상생활 모드로 이제 뇌가 스위치가 된 거죠. 돌아온 거죠.
Fully treated, Ho Jo-hee can now sit in the driver's seat. This was unimaginable during her PTSD period.
그 EMDR을 점차 그 공포에 대한 거를 하고 나서부터 공포가 사라졌어요. 그 이제 불안한 감정도 점점 사라지고.
There seems to be some naturalistic processing that goes on in the mind that allows people to move to a better place and learn things in a positive way. And that's what the EMDR is doing.
It's not easy to rid the mind of trauma, for the amygdala does not forget easily. It is the same with learning. We often have trouble discarding our fixed ideas and accepting new things. Thus, we think only inside the framework of our past memories. Einstein just may have been an exception. We must be mindful if we are to be free of prejudice.
And that's what this concept of mindfulness is really all about, which is to recognize that the categories that dictate most of our lives are in part fiction, you know, that they are of our own making and shouldn't limit us.
There is an example which shows us just how deeply absorbed we are in our existing memories. It is Aesop's fable of the ant and the grasshopper. It tells us that if we work hard, we will prosper, but if we are lazy, we will starve. The lesson is that we must all work hard. The creative version of The Ant and the Grasshopper. This is a slightly different version. The ant works hard, while the grasshopper sings all day. However, the ant hurts his back from working so hard and is taken to the hospital. Don't you feel sorry for him? Meanwhile, the grasshopper becomes a successful singer. Up to this point, we believe that we must not live like the grasshopper. Thinking in this one-sided way, blinded by existing memories, is what is called mindlessness.
When you're mindless, you've accepted information in a single-minded way. And what happens is whatever that information dictates, you then behave accordingly without an awareness that it could have been otherwise.
We are bewildered when we don't remember something. Did you know, however, that not remembering something can cause us to pay more attention to the thing that we couldn't remember? Afterwards, we are more prone to remember the thing that we couldn't remember. We must thus rid ourselves of the preconceived notion that not remembering is wrong.
But when I painted it, I didn't start off with a plan that I was going to paint the same person 3 times. As I was painting, it occurred to me, and so I painted this one first, then I painted this one, this version of this person, and I initially thought I would paint it exactly the same, which was silly because I wouldn't be able to do that. Then when I noticed it wasn't exactly the same, I started to enjoy that because I started to think that, well, if it's 3 views of a single person, that that's the way we really are. You know, you're never quite the same from moment to moment or day to day.
Professor Langer's drawings were used as the cover of the U.S. Journal of Psychology. Is it because of her fine artistic skill? No. The reason Professor Langer could draw such drawings is because she discarded the general stereotype that only artists can draw.
Suggesting me anybody can do it when they think mindful.
Yeah, that if you put aside your evaluation, if you just let yourself be, then there's nothing that's going to stop you from enjoying yourself. And again, the way to let yourself just be is to recognize that all those rules, all those absolutes about what one is supposed to do to be successful are just decisions people made at different times, and what was successful before won't be successful in the future.
11 divided by 2 equals 5.5. This is the answer that we remember. However, geniuses claim that the answer is 1. 11 is formed from 2 ones, so half of that is 1. In English, the word 11 can be divided into ele and ven. There are 3 letters in each, so the answer could also be 3. In Korean, 11 is expressed by combining the words for 10 and 1. When divided by 2, could be either 10 or 1. That is, when we rid ourselves of our preconceptions. Consider the next example. What is the sum of the numbers 1 through 100? 1 plus 2 plus 3. Mathematician Kari Frederick Kaus teaches us another method. 1 plus 100, 2 plus 99, 3 plus 98, 50 plus 51, etc. Altogether, there are 50 sums of 101. Therefore, the answer is 101 times 50 equals 5050. Einstein's theory of relativity did not create new things, but a new way of associating things. Song Yu-gun is a 9-year-old genius who was recently admitted to university. He is earnestly solving a problem in front of Japan's Fuji TV crew.
이게 뭐 한 거야 이거? 다시 한번.
줄어든 거 방정식이요.
그게 뭐예요?
He has an idea in his mind, but cannot express it.
파동함수에서 입자의 위치를 알아내는 거예요.
Yu-gun's genius can be seen partially as a product of his parents' mode of education.
유근이를 이제 보시면 알겠지만은 저놈들이 한 게 이제 그 고민이었는데 사실은 운이 좋았던 게 저희가 맞벌이라는 관계로 아이를 10개월 못 썼거든. 그러니까 5, 6년을 이제 자유롭게 양쪽 할머니 같이 사셨는데 그 할머니들도 또 나이가 드셔가지고 아이에 대해서 말을 못 해줘요. 그러니까 유근이 데리고 우리 맞벌이 때 나가면 그냥 놀이터 가면 애가 이제 개미들 막 땅 파잖아요. 그럼 유근이가 그게 보고 싶어서 보고 있으면 할머니들 그냥 냅두는 거예요, 보면. 뭐 아는 것도 없고 그냥 손자 귀여운 정도니까 봐주면 그럼 저놈이 몇 시간씩 자유롭게 뭘 들여다봐 뭐 했는지는 사실 모르겠고 근데 뭔가 애들이 집중을 하거든요.
가만히 뭐 같은 거 이렇게 가만히 쳐다보고 있으면 무슨 생각이 막 나?
네.
개미 같은 거 이렇게 보고 있으면 무슨 뭐 이런저런 생각들이 막 나는 거야?
네.
예를 하나만 들면 무슨 생각이 나? 원숭이 물이 가서 원숭이 쳐다보고 있으면 무슨 생각 나니?
From a common perspective, anyone would agree that Yugun's parents practically neglected their child.
만져봐 한번.
Yet there was an underlying, well-thought-out education principle.
엄마 보고 이제 양말 사달라 그래.
아이는 자기가 최선이라고 행동을 했는데 그 자기가 최선한 행동이 엄마는 누가 봐서 이건 옳다, 잘했다, 이건 틀렸다 이렇게 평가를 받아버리기 시작하면 아이들이 행동하기 전에 이제 생각을 해요. 아, 저건 어떻게 생각할까? 그러면 새로운 길은 못 가죠. 근데 유근이는 6년 동안 아무도 안 가르쳤기 때문에 전 평가를 안 받으니까 아무런 두려움 없이 모든 생각을 다 할 수 있고 다 해볼 수 있는데 우리나라 꼬맹이들은 벌써 이 복중에 있을 때부터 태교한다고 뭘 해야 되니까 어떤 패턴에 따라서 학습을 하는 거죠.
Yugun's parents and Professor Langer share the same ideas. The basis of mindful learning lies not in judging, but in seeing things as they are. In order to do this, a degree of forgetfulness is required.
I pride myself as being untaught rather than self-taught because there's a conception, I think, of being taught as knowing. And the way to succeed, not to produce something that everybody's going to love, but to feel successful is to constantly discover. Once you feel you've learned it, then the discovery part is over.
Any kind of parental judgment was reserved from Yugen's actions. Moreover, before his parents or teachers gave him any answers, he was given ample time to think for himself.
On the other hand, I think creativity can be cultivated by teaching people poetry. I think there should be a lot of poetry taught in the school curriculum. It makes people more imaginative. And what is poetry, after all? It's being able to see links between unrelated things. Poetic metaphor.
A face can be covered with 2 hands, but my inquisitive mind is the size of a lake, and thus I cannot help but shut my eyes. This poem was written by Chung Ji-yong. When we read poetry, the synaptic networks in our brains become activated. It therefore enables us to see new, unrelated concepts come together. It is not always easy to forget. However, at times we must forget in order to see a new world. Let us then forget any memories that are unnecessary. Join us next time for Part 5, A Peace of Mind. A peaceful mind can ease childbirth. The key to obtaining a peaceful mind will be revealed by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, Master of Mindful Meditation.